let's move on to the hot button topic of the week. It is transgender in sports. If you guys didn't know, a transgender man that went to woman, now named Laurel Hubbard, competed in the Australasian Championships in powerlifting against women, 39 years old, and broke all the world records, or all the Australian records, set 4 records for the 90 kilogram or bigger weight class, and won by 19 kilograms over second place. And they recently announced that the ruling was going to stand, and that this woman now, I guess, is the new record holder for female athletes out of Australia. Potentially could be representing Australia in the Olympics if all this stuff holds up. So I want to get your take on this first, Brandon, because I have a lot of shit to say, and I know that you're going to have a lot of shit to say. So I just wanted to get yours through first.
I think this is going to be like a bouncing back thing. So, I won't give my entire opinion. We'll just keep going back and forth here. But I think it's absurd as far as, allowing a transgender female who was once male to transition and get into female competitive athletics, especially earlier on in their transition period, regardless of their testosterone levels, because molecular and cellular biology is kind of like my background. This is what I like to deal with. And I understand that they have rules about you have to have a certain length of treatment, as far as you have to be able to say you did 2 years of hormonal treatment, and you also have to go through basically the sex change operation in order to be allowed to compete in these sports. That's what he had to do, and I think that's basically the all-around rule on this. And the thing that I have to say about that is a male's testosterone and a woman's testosterone levels, they're regulated by different places in the body. And when you get into that, regardless of where the testosterone levels are, he's lived his entire life as a man. He's developed, the way his quick twitch reaction, and you know what I mean, everything, the way his body moves, the way he's developed as a man, regardless of testosterone levels, he still developed that keen sense, you know what I mean? And that right there is a huge advantage for him. He's just lived his life as a man. He's developed his life that way, and then he just transitioned. So he still has the power. He still has the ability that a man had. He just has the testosterone levels are down, and that will eventually lead to decrease in muscle mass. But it's not just like all of a sudden, oh, my testosterone levels are down, I'm no longer strong anymore. You know what I mean? You're still going to be extremely strong. You're still going to have your male strength. Your testosterone will gradually decrease your muscle mass. And it's not
like you stop lifting during that period either. You're not going to stop exercising.
He still lifted hardcore. But that's basically where I'm at on that. Like, so when you're a female, you develop your testosterone levels come from your ovaries, your adrenal glands, and there's basically that's quarter of it is ovaries, quarter of it is adrenal glands, and then half of it will come from like the tissue areas around them that basically soak up testosterone and release it. It's a complicated process, but that's how that process happens. Where the man it's in the testicles, and the hypothalamus sends a message to the pituitary gland to tell your testicles basically how much testosterone to release. It's just a different process for a man and a different process for a woman. So what happens when a man transitions, he no longer has the testicles, right? So the only place that he can develop testosterone in his body is on his adrenal glands. So that's part of the argument for him being able to compete, is that there's an argument that he will have less testosterone than even a female because he only has one place to get the testosterone. Well, my argument to that is these athletes are coming straight from relatively a new transition, so they still have their strength. They still have high levels of testosterone in their bodies. And the fact that it's your molecular makeup. No matter what you do with your hormonal process, your body, you have your chromosomes will identify you as a man or a female, and your body will do different things with those hormones. You know what I mean? They don't know just because your levels are a certain level. There's ways that your body as a female and there's ways as your body as a man will take that testosterone and harness it and use it. And that's just my take for now. You know, we'll banter back and forth on this, but that's my take is that they should not be allowed to do that. It should be a no-brainer in my opinion. It's not fair. It's dangerous. In some like combat sports, it's dangerous. And in this particular moment, he broke all these records that may never be broken anytime soon. He looks almost like a man still. He doesn't look very feminine to me. And I just think about all those competitors that really, competitive weightlifting takes a lot of hard work. It's blood, sweat, and tears. You know, it can make you feel, people feel like shit for long periods of time trying to train for this stuff. And these women work their asses off to become champion. And all of a sudden, this guy basically swoops in and just takes the glory from them. And I feel for them. I do. I understand how it feels to train your ass off and didn't come up short. And that's terrible.
It's bullshit. And I have a lot to say on this, too. First off, I want to say I really feel for, let me get this person's name right, Ayanara Sapaya, basically a Samoan person from New Zealand area that got second place. This bitch deserved the gold medal. There's so much different between a man and a woman physically, and a year of taking hormones is not going to change that. I mean, I'm a progressive person. I'm all for if somebody wants to identify as a fucking woman, fine. I'll say you're she. If you want to be a freaking owl, if you want to be an otherkin, if you want all this bullshit, fine, whatever. That's what you want to do. But if you want to get into a competition against other people, we're not going to play pretend anymore. It's just not how the real world should work. It's bullshit. If you guys know what sexual dimorphism is, it's basically the physiological differences between men and women. And there's a shit ton of those, but I'm just going to break down like the stuff that matters, like in a weightlifting competition that would give good old Laurel Hubbard a monstrous advantage over all the competition. Okay. Basically women just comparatively are about half as strong as men in the upper body and about 2/3 as strong with their lower body. The female skeleton has less mass, less bone density, with their tendons and ligaments. They're weaker. There's higher susceptibility to injury. They can't train as hard. Women get ACL injuries, much more common, women athletes, because their ligaments and tendons are weaker. Men have over 50% higher lung volume per body mass. They have a 10% higher red blood cell count. They have a larger heart. That means they can train harder. They can work their cardio longer. Hand grip strength. This one's crazy. They literally just tested how hand grip is super important if you're a weightlifter, like how that hold you have on the bar. They tested this. They literally just took dudes that were not athletes at all, just regular dudes, and then compared them to women. And women were 90%. 90% of females had a weaker grip than the top 95% of the men. Like they even threw in like a bunch of female athletes that where hand grip was important, like in judo and handball, and they still would only beat 25% of the men. Like basically the biggest pussies of the men were the only ones they were able to beat, and the ones that, and again, all the guys were not athletes. Here's another one. Bruce Jenner, now Caitlyn Jenner, when he won the gold medal in the decathlon in 1976 Olympics, he ran, you run 10 events on track and field.
Sure.
His 400-meter dash time in 1976, and again, you're not a world record holder in any of these particular categories. You're just a well-rounded athlete that can do them all.
Yes.
So you got to do shot put, javelin, long jump, high jump, pole vault, like all this crazy shit. His 400-meter dash time in 1976 would still be the world record for women today.
Yeah. I actually read that.
But
the other
now
day.
Bruce Jenner is Caitlyn Jenner. So technically, Bruce Jenner is the fastest woman alive, or Caitlyn Jenner is the fastest woman alive in the 400-meter dash.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And this guy isn't the only thing. I mean, there was that transgender boy. She's a girl in Texas. Her name Mac Beggs. She's transitioning. She's currently going through the hormonal therapy. She's shooting up testosterone and everything. And they made her compete in the girls' state championship in Texas for wrestling, and not the boys. And she was cool with it because she won the state championship. She got up running around a mat, and she was like super excited about it and everything, and super pumped, which is fine. If you won a state championship, I'm not saying just get up and walk out the mat, but at the same time, I don't understand how she was cleared because she was juicing
loaded.
Essentially.
Yeah,
she was loaded up with loaded. And if you look at her compared to her opponent, she was physically imposing compared to that opponent. And I just feel so bad for the other girls that she had to wrestle against that, trained and worked hard, and that will never get to say that they're state champion because they had to go up against a juiced girl. That's just absolutely just imposing on them, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I think that she should have had some sort of decency when it comes to that, knowing that she's juiced to the top, and that she has this distinct advantage. She knows she has this advantage, and she took advantage of it. That's sad. I find
that's another thing that I wanted to bring up that I forgot to bring up was going back to the weightlifter, the Laurel Hubbard. They're like, okay, they started transitioning. And they're 33 years old, so it was 6 years ago. Okay, that's fine. But guess what? When do you hit puberty? I'll just assume it's close to 13. So that means that when you're a dude, he was basically taking steroids for 20 years before transitioning to being a woman. Got 20 years of free steroids in. Of course you're going to be stronger. Come on.
Like I said, you've already developed your physicality by then. I mean, the testosterone levels are not the end-all, be-all. The main argument for the people that want this to be allowed is that the testosterone levels are on an even platform, which they're just not taking into account the cellular structure.
Yeah,
of
the physiological differences, which I brought up, are just massive. Like,
there are studies out there, people,
But there was an athlete that this takes me back, because this is actually an argument where MMA was ahead of the game. The first time that we've ever really had a huge controversy about a transgender in sports was Fallon Fox was a male to female transgender who competed in cage fighting, in mixed martial arts, against women and beat the shit out of them. Fallon Fox, first 3 opponents, knocked 2 of them out cold, one of them in 40 seconds. So insanely unfair. Wasn't that skilled, really wasn't that good of a fighter, but was just so physically, it's basically a domestic violence. It was basically domestic violence.
Who was her last fight that she won?
She beat.
The reason I'm asking is because the last fight that she had, that she won, that woman was interviewed, and she said that she has never felt strength. Yeah. She's never felt strength like that. Yep, she said, I've never felt strength like that. I've never been hit that way. It was just a different game for her. And so that's what people don't understand. When you change your testosterone levels, you just don't automatically lose muscle mass and strength. That's a gradual process. So if they get into these competitions earlier in their transition, they're still strong as shit. They're still an incredible male, or they're a mediocre male athlete, but they're an incredible female athlete. with the testosterone level similar to their counterparts, but that, like I said, that's not the end all be all to the argument. You have to take into consideration a multitude of things, and that's what people don't understand.
Yeah,
and,
we actually I just want to say we actually had a soundbite about this that we totally forgot to, because we went all serious mode on you guys. But we gotta lighten the mood a little bit with
that ain't no woman. It's a man.
But no, I do want to put my personal opinions out there as far as gay and trans people. I do not have any issue with as far as living the life that you want to live. I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea of how I feel about human beings in general. This is just strictly a sports conversation and their unfair advantage, in my personal opinion. And so as far as like their lifestyle, it's not anything that affects my lifestyle, and it's not anything that I preach against. It's, I'm okay with somebody to live the life they want to live their life, as long as it's not hurting anybody. So, I just want to say that. But as far as the unfair advantage in athletics, it's something that needs to be addressed. I think it needs to be looked at closer. I don't think the testosterone levels need to be the end all be all, and I think they need to really look into this. It's not fair.